Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm gonna give it a few minutes and then we will go ahead and get started. All right, let me know if you guys can hear me okay. How's it going, Mohammed? Good to see you here. Perfect. Awesome, guys. It's going to be a good stream today. We're going to go over a lot of stuff. I know the market's been extremely volatile today, so stay tuned. It's going to be another minute. Let everyone else get in here. We're going to cover everything that's been happening, a lot of the news items that's happened over the past week, why the market is dropping, what I'm looking forward to, and if we're bullish or bearish, if we started the bear market, some big trends that we crossed below and what we need to cross back above, as well as some big events coming up over the next few weeks. What's going on? M&A, Young Hustler, Fizzy, NFD, Just USC, Caden, Shogun, a lot of good people in here, a lot of familiar faces. Let's see, Just USC says, I bought ETH at 4,500, how cooked am I? You're pretty well done there, Just USC. I'm hoping ETH bounces, but 3,000 looks pretty shaky at the moment. We'll go over the chart, though. I'll let you know. I mean, it's, yeah, not looking the best. The good thing is, at least you bought spot, so you can technically just hold it until you get back to that level. But yeah, that's rough though. I feel for you. And a lot of people got liquidated even October 10th, right? When we had that big flush, even on 2x leverage. So I wouldn't feel horrible since you're just holding spot. But at the same time, it is frustrating to hold down through all that, that whole drop that we had over the past few months. Let's see. Joseph says, hi, I took profit on ZEC and ETH. Thank you. Hey, no problem. Glad you made some profit on that. What's going on, Super Gringo? Ellie and Singe, M. A lot of good people here. M says, midnight in the UK. Yeah, I'm actually in Portugal right now, guys. I was there for that crypto conference. If you saw my post on Twitter that I made, I posted some pictures from the Crypto Content Creators Conference, and it was a fun time. I had a good time there. Met a lot of good people. Let's see. Fizzy says, got some profit on ZEC. Awesome. M&A says, KTA. Luke has so much confidence in this coin. Yeah, we'll go over KTA as well. I'll go over that in the charts. We'll give it another 10 seconds, let everyone else get in here, and then we'll start the stream. M says, am I in a long on BTC? Should I close it? It depends on where you longed from. If you longed between 90 to 92K, then you're good. If you longed, let's say 100K, you may be a little cooked there. We'll have to see. But yeah, I mean, I would say a good long is probably 90 to 92K for Bitcoin because that's where the CME gap was, and we actually just filled that CME gap. So Will says we're stopped out of that ZEC trade now, right? Yeah, so I know Kincaid, he says he closed his trade out on that Zcash trade. So it hit TP1 for him, and then after that, yeah, hit the stop loss. So Shogun says 2 a.m. in Lithuania. Awesome. Let's see. M says longed at 94.6K. Okay, that's not horrible, M, but it's maybe a little shaky. We'll talk about it as well. And Juan says, CD, why do you believe Trezor is safer than Ledger? Because Ledger had a few more hacks in the past, and Trezor has been seen as not having as many hacks. Because I know Ledger actually leaked a lot of customer data during their hacks, and so technically that's why people focus on that instead. But Derek says, GG's Bears won. Well, let's cover it, Derek. Let's cover it and see what happens for today. So let's go and get started. So, past 24 hours of liquidations, 800 million. With that said, again, still some bullishness in the market with where we're at as far as indicators wise. We'll talk about that, but things are not looking good at the moment. I will say we did have over $1 billion liquidations, not yesterday, but 2 days prior to that in a row. And so that was some type of silver lining because usually we have a bottom in the market within 1 to 3 days after that. And so that's something to keep in mind as well. But nonetheless, I mean, it was more or less 50-50 of liquidations today between longs and shorts. And so that's not what you want to see when you form a bottom. You want to see longs be the majority liquidated. And the fact that we're seeing both longs and shorts be liquidated shows there's a lot of uncertainty in the market and we could still go much lower. Now, also we have Bitcoin. I mean, it did hit a lot of that liquidity to the downside. I mentioned that we had that CME gap just below 92K. It hit that. Now on the 1 week heat map, we have a lot of liquidity between 97 and 98.2K. Double check on the stream real quick. Let me see. It looks like the stream may have been paused for a second. 1 second, guys. Okay. Okay, good. I think the stream is back, is working again. All right, so yeah, so that's something I'm watching for the heat map. Now, as far as the big news items, so I'm not going to go over everything ad nauseum, but I'll go over a couple important ones. So some of the big ones was UK Reform leader Nigel Farage promises to create a Bitcoin strategic reserve if elected prime minister. So that is a bullish catalyst for the UK. You also have China saying there's significant room for trade and economic cooperation with the US. I know that Trump was saying that they would have a trade deal with China by Thanksgiving. So that's towards the end of November, 27th to 28th. So keep an eye on that. That could also be very, very bullish there. And then we do have SEC Chair Paul Atkins unveiling token taxonomy plan to modernize crypto regulation. And then also we have UFC and Polymarket partnership, which that shows there's more adoption between Web 2 and Web 3 companies. The Czech Central Bank buying $1 million worth of Bitcoin in crypto. Sol ETF for XRP is starting. And then also you have a few other big news items. Now give me 2 seconds real quick, guys. I'll be right back. Alright guys, so sorry about that. I am back now. Okay, so for the other news items, we have Michael Saylor saying there's no truth to strategy selling any of their Bitcoin. So that was bullish. That created some FUD on November 14th. Since then, actually, they've been buying Bitcoin in droves over the past few weeks. And then also you have the U.S., like I said, planning to finalize that trade deal with China before Thanksgiving. But between that time, we had Bitcoin continuing to drop, and I know a lot of people were very frustrated by that. They were waiting to see when Bitcoin was going to bottom out. And then some positive news, though, is you did have Trump saying that the $2,000 tariff dividend will be sent to Americans by mid-2026. So that's bullish. But on the bearish end, we have the Trump administration saying that they're reviewing a proposal to allow the IRS to access and tax Americans' foreign crypto account data. So that's why there's been so much attention on privacy tokens like Zcash, like Rail, like XMR, and a few others, because now people, even if they're trading on foreign crypto accounts, they can still be taxed. And so that's a very interesting approach from the Trump admin, and that's something I didn't see, but again, just more FUD for the market. And we'll talk about also interest rate cuts and the chances of December is actually dwindling as well, which also adds to the FUD. So let's go ahead and see a few questions from the chat. Let me go ahead and look at a few real quick. A couple people said they got stop loss on Zcash and ETH, went for both for TP2s. Yeah, so you had TP1s hit, and then TP2 unfortunately did not get to there. That shows you guys there's still a lot of people taking profits on those large, on those large positions, right? And so when there's major resistance, people end up taking profit. And so that's just, you have to be careful, guys, whenever you're in those trades. Take profits ASAP because it shows you how quickly things can reverse. M says, so should I buy in a SEX and transfer my spot in a ledger? How does that work? I hold my funds on a trust wallet. I don't think it's really safe. Yeah, so basically you just buy a ledger or a Trezor cold wallet and then transfer from an exchange to that wallet. So you have to hook it up. You have to set your private key, set your password, and then from there you have a wallet address for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, etc., and you can actually transfer funds on there from your exchange. But always, always, always do a test transaction first with $1. Make sure it gets there, and then afterwards transfer the rest. Caden says, thoughts about the daily fair value gap between 88.5K to 92,000. It's actually not a bad gap as well, because I'm looking at 90 to 92, and so 88.5 definitely is a good buy area in my opinion. M says, do you know about the situation with 100X, or also known as Zane Mansour? I do not. Fill me in on that one, because I'm not sure with that. Exodia says, hey Data, how are you? Any short positions? Hey, what's going on, Exodia? Good to see you here. For myself, currently I'm not, just because I do think we're close to a bottom. I know that Bitcoin is getting close to that 90 to 92K level. It reached below that, tagged that CME gap, and then went back to the upside. A lot of indicators are oversold. We've had a lot of liquidations. We're in extreme fear for the third day in a row on the Fear and Greed Index. And so I assume there's going to be some type of dead cat bounce soon, but just keep an eye on it. I will let you guys know when the bottom is in, though. Keep that in mind. I am focusing on Confluence trades. That's why for that Ethereum trade, I was focused on Confluence with it had bullish divergence on the daily for the RSI, stock RSI, and everything else combined with liquidation data, and ETH BTC outperforming Bitcoin. And so again, there's a lot of Confluence. Unfortunately, that one didn't work out, but there is still more. I will continue to take those trades every time when they're given. Now I just need to change my mindset to making sure I still minimize the profits and make sure I have the best entry possible for those trades, because again, the market is unforgiving right now with how much we're dropping. Joseph says, had a Zcash short and flipped it because of the long call. That's the thing, guys. If you have a strategy in place, do not switch it for anyone. Just continue to hold it, because if your strategy is back tested accordingly, then you can still be profitable every time. Again, it's all about statistics at the end of the day. Derek says, CD, are you out of the market yet? I'm about 50% out of the market right now. I'm just waiting to see what happens, but there is a lot of uncertainty in the market, and I'll talk about as well, like I said, the interest rate cut percentage chance happening in December, and then a few other things that I'm watching as well. M says, what do you think about James Nguyen saying that Bitcoin will dip even more? James Nguyen has been more of a counter sentiment trader, if anything, but he's very volatile. He flips biases a lot, and so I would just be careful listening to him. Sometimes he's right. Obviously, a broken clock is right twice a day, but I wouldn't listen to him full time. Adam says, BTC last leg down 88 to 7. Yeah, I think so. I think 88K would be a good level. Juan says, what are the best current stablecoin yield farms in the market? So stablecoin yield farms, I mean, Aave's good. You have, there's a few others actually. I would search on ChatGPT. That would probably give you the best ones and see which one's on there. But yeah, always be careful with those stablecoin yield farms. Just, again, diversify yourself accordingly. And even you can invest in Coinbase. I do know they give between 3 to 4% APY if you want something really safe. And then Mohammed says, thoughts on a red Tuesday? Yeah, we had a red Tuesday for 16 weeks in a row now. And so it's very possible we could have a red Tuesday later on in the next, 6 to 12 hours. So I would just be careful, guys, because until that trend gets broken, I mean, it's all about probabilities, right? And if we're continuing to have a red Tuesday, then I wouldn't change it. I would just maintain that. Maximilian says, dead cat bounce. You don't believe in new all-time highs? It's not that I don't believe in them, but it's just that if we're breaking downtrends like the 50-week EMA and we're breaking long-term support lines, then I'm going to change my bias at that point. Adam says also ETH gap around 2,900. Yeah, there you go. So 29, 2,800, absolutely. Also, guys, if you haven't liked the stream, make sure to like it. Only 38 viewers and only 4 likes. If you guys could like the stream, that'd be awesome. But let's go over the rest of the news items today, and then we'll answer some more questions. So the S&P right now is at 66.72. It's at that support level. Is it going to drop more? We're going to have to see. It formed a bearish divergence on the RSI. The RSI is still curving to the downside, so watching that closely. But if we can hold this 66.40 level, that'd be very bullish for the markets. Hopefully bring crypto up with it. An interesting correlation here, too, is that gold is also declining. Gold's usually seen as a hedge against inflation, a hedge against uncertainty, but the fact that gold is declining with the S&P shows that the market is extremely uncertain right now. Even gold now is losing some traction, which is very interesting to say the least. So the market is definitely behaving very, very differently than it performs in the past. But with gold, I would say this is still following the line that we drew here of having a pump, little drop, and then further increasing afterwards. So I think gold will still outperform because of the uncertainty, but again, we'll talk about that later on as well. Oil staying around 60, and then the DXY is getting close to that resistance point at 99.50. Keep an eye on that, because if that ends up declining again, then it could actually pump Bitcoin because they're inversely correlated. But if it breaks above this resistance line, then Bitcoin could actually fall even more down to the 88K level we would look for, because the RSI did bounce off of that 50 level there. Now, looking at overall tokens here, let's go ahead and refresh the page. So with Bitcoin, it's at 90, almost at 92K. Ethereum's above 3,000. BNB is at 909. Solana's at 130. And looking at the top gainers, ICP up 15%, Uniswap 4%, Hash, Filecoin, Hyperliquid all up as well. So it shows you guys there's still opportunities in the market, but you do have to be willing to take profits quickly because the market is still in a downtrend until otherwise stated. And so the trend is your friend, as they say. So again, take advantage of these pumps by taking profits along the way. Once you take your first profit, move your stop loss up to break even, and then go from there. You never want to hold tokens too long here. Also on the Fear and Greed Index, that is at 17. Remember, something I want to show everyone is we were in extreme fear for 3 days in a row back in March before we had a pump. I think the same thing is happening here. We're getting into that extreme fear level for 3 days in a row, and we could have a local bottom in the near future. So that's something I'm watching as well. Extreme fear is when you have the best risk reward, especially if your indicators are in confluence with one another. Now, looking at the ETF flows, that's something as well I'm watching today, because we did have a lot of outflows last week. And so if we do have some inflows today, it's going to be positive. If we have more outflows, still that's going to mean that an inflow day is much more near, because usually we have 5 to 6 days of outflows before we have some inflow days. So that also matches with having a local bottom in the near future. And then looking for Ethereum. So Ethereum is the same thing here. We had a lot of days of outflows, but let's see if we can have some more inflows. And actually, let's go back to Bitcoin here. So Bitcoin, you can see, had 3 days of outflows last week, and it had 866 million and 492 on Friday. So large days there, which is positive for more inflow days. Probably not today, but tomorrow we could see some as well. So keeping an eye on that. And then let's go and talk about the charts. So this is some big changes that I want to show you guys of why, we potentially have entered bear market territory now. Because on the 50 weekly EMA, we bounced multiple times. We bounced back in September of 2024 and then March of 2025. Now, we crossed below it on the weekly, very bearish, and then we actually extended to the downside. So we have no bounce. We actually crossed below it by a large margin. It was at 100.6K, and we closed it at 94.2, below, which is very bearish, because you see in the past, anytime we crossed below it and we crossed back above it, it barely went below, right? It was just, okay, a little bit uncertainty, and then it went higher. But the days we actually crossed below it and kept going down, that's when it extended to the downside. So this is very, very bearish, especially where we're at right now. And I mean, if that happens, I mean, you're looking at potentially 70K, right? I mean, literally, this would probably be when we started afterwards. So we're gonna have to see what happens. I mean, I don't want this to happen here, but we just have to look at all scenarios at this point. And if this happens, then we have to be ready, because this also will coincide with the 200 EMA on the weekly at 67.5K, and also with support all around between April and October of 2024. So yeah, I know that Smart Money Crypto is looking for these levels as well, so that's something to keep in mind. But I do believe that this is a real possibility if we can't close back above, at the very least, 94K on the weekly. I mean, basically where we close below on the 50 EMA, we need to close back above that, because that's going to show some more bullish continuation, maybe a little reversal there. But until then, you got to maintain that bearish bias, right? You got to maintain that bearish bias until you can see a shift in the trend. Now, silver lining here is a weekly stock RSI is oversold. It's been oversold for, since October 20th, so nearly a month now. But the bearish sign here is the RSI did cross below this support level here that it had around 43 to 45. You can see how many times it bounced from that. I mean, at least 5 times. And now it crossed below it on the weekly. And so this is very bearish. This shows us that we could still go down even more. Where would that level be? I mean, right here, 84K. That'd be a big level, right? Even 86.5. But yeah, it's not looking good right now. I mean, Bitcoin's got to make some changes. It's hovering around 92K, trying to close back above 94. Not looking too good. So just be careful, guys, if you're trying to trade this. A lot of volatility right now. Better to wait for confirmation than try to jump the gun here. You want to look at the daily chart? Well, stock RSI is oversold, so is the RSI. So things are looking better on the daily, but at the same time, I mean, we need to still close back above some of these major support levels, now turned resistance. So that's the thing with trying to catch a falling knife, especially if we're in a bear market right now, is it could keep declining, just keep wrecking people, keep wrecking late longs, and just at the end of the day, yeah, it's not good for anyone. So just be patient with that. And then now let's go and look at Ethereum, Solana, then I'll look at KTA, and then answer some questions. So right now, Ethereum's trying to hold on for dear life above 3,000. Do I think this is the bottom for Ethereum? I think it's possible. I think it's about a 50-50 chance here, because Ethereum still has a bullish divergence on the daily RSI. Lower lows, RSI is making a higher low. Stock RSI, you could say it's still a bullish divergence here, making a higher low. But depending if we keep going down from here, then they'll turn into no divergences at that point, because then the RSI will be making a lower low while price is making a lower low. You see what I'm saying? Same with the stock RSI. So it's a bullish divergence until it's not. And I know that's, it's kind of bad the way that it is, but you just need to wait for confirmation of these reversal candles, and then it confirms the bullish divergence, and then at that point you have reversal to the upside. But until then, you just got to be cautious. You got to be very cautious. DCA only at major support levels if you want to try to catch the falling knife, which the next major level would be 2930. Good strong support, and then 2820 is another good level. And then below that, let's go on the weekly for Ethereum. Let me go ahead to here. Okay, for the weekly, and then the next strong support after that is 2750. So 27.50, 28.20, 29.30. If you guys want a DCA, and I'm talking low leverage, like 3x or less, then those would be the levels to do it at, with your average around 28.20. So that's something I'm watching very, very closely for Ethereum. And then with the resistance, so this 50 weekly EMA here at 33.30, that's going to be a big level of resistance that most people are not watching. And then on the daily, so keep an eye on that. Before that, you have 32.70. So 32.70, first resistance, and then that 33.30 on the 50 weekly EMA, and then the 35.60 on the 200 EMA on the daily. And then looking at Solana real quick. So Solana did bounce nicely off of 129, but same thing. It's really trying to, it was trying to hold it, but now it's curving back to the downside. The stock RSI is oversold. The RSI is oversold on the daily. That's bullish, right? But again, there's no bullish divergence on Solana, so looking very weak. Now, where's the next major level of support for Solana? Well, we're literally right near it. If you go to the weekly chart here, you can see 130 is a level. And then technically, if you want to go down to this wick here, 125, right? You can see 125 is where it bounced March 10th of this year, and then the wick also on June 16th. So 125 to 130 would be the area of support I would look at for Solana. If it goes anywhere below that, yes, you do have the 200 EMA on the weekly, which, it's at 117. Let's see. Let's put that there. Is that accurate? Technically, that was an area of support back here on this wick on March 31st, so I wouldn't count it out, right? I think 117 may be a good level. If it closes below 125, 117 will be my next target, and then obviously 103, psychological level near 100 will be the next level. As far as support is concerned, and the stock RSI is oversold on the weekly, but the RSI still has room to go, so just keep that in mind. We could still have further room for the downside if 130 to 125 cannot hold here. Now, resistance-wise, I'll look at 145 as the next major resistance because we can see these wicks came down there November 4th, October 10th, and then way down here July as well. So it's a big area of significance. So 145. Now, before that, you could say around 139. That's also a big area of resistance. So not as major as 145, but I'll still take some profits here if you are longing. So always make sure to secure profits, guys, especially during this market when we're still in a technical downtrend. But silver lining is RSI and stock RSI are both oversold, which is good confluence signals at the very least, with 130 around major support to 125. So if you want a knife catch Solana, 125 to 130 is where I'd place my orders. And then finally, KTA, you guys were asking about that. Now, here's the thing, guys. When you have everything dropping like it is, no token is safe, right? Yes, we have some privacy tokens pumping. That's because of narrative, especially with the Fed saying now it's going to track foreign crypto transactions and tax you on those. But at the end of the day, you just got to look at the data. And with KTA, it's at 28 cents now. It's actually in that golden buy zone. That's literally the lowest here on this chart that it's been. And so, yeah, if you're going to buy KTA and you want to really bottom ticket, 27 cents. 27 cents I think would be a good area. And the only thing I don't like is the daily RSI is not oversold. The stock RSI is getting oversold, but the daily RSI still has room to go. And I think a lot of different tokens are like this. The RSI is around 37, but it's not fully oversold yet. So you just got to be careful whenever you're making that trade because it technically could still go down much more, especially if there's more FUD in the market. Now, last but not least, let me cover Polymarket data because that was something that I mentioned earlier in the stream. The chance of an interest rate cut in December has now fell to 44%. So as you know, Polymarket has a lot of insiders. Right now they're thinking there's going to be no change, 54%. And so the market is also pricing that in. Yes, we still have the ending of QT, quantitative tightening, December 1st, but the fact that we don't have an interest rate cut potentially is very bearish because now it's like, okay, have interest rate cuts stopped completely? Are we going to start raising interest rates again? What's going on? Is inflation going to rise again? Etc. And so there's a lot of uncertainty in the market. And as you know, in uncertain markets, risk-on assets are the first to go, i.e. crypto. So that's why you're seeing a lot of things drop right now. This, plus the whole Fed news about potentially taxing foreign crypto accounts. Okay, Aga says, CD, are you still holding long-term? So yeah, I'm still holding long-term, but I'm not really holding many spot tokens, to be honest. Ethereum's one, and then really besides Ethereum, just a little bit of Solana maybe, and Hyperliquid. They have the unlocks coming up for the team, so just keep in mind that could be bearish afterwards. So just manage risk appropriately with that. Joseph says, did you hear about Project Dolem now as pre-sale? I did not hear about that. I'll have to check that out. Let's see. Cal says, hey CDA, I disagree with you on the extreme fear take. I think we're in a bear market. If you look at previous cycles, when we enter a bear market, price can stay in extreme fear and drop further. Also, you can look at the Wyckoff pattern, and the cycle has followed it to a T. We're currently in phase E, where you see aggressive sells. Yes, Cal. So absolutely, we can stay in extreme fear for longer periods of time, and even smart money crypto is saying that, right? Like, extreme fear doesn't really matter when you're in a bear market, just like you can stay oversold with the RSI and stock RSI. And that's why I'm watching the 50 weekly EMA on Bitcoin and how much further it declined after crossing below it and closing below it versus past times where it's barely crossed below it and then we cross back above it. So, I mean, this current week is paramount for us determining if we're in a full bear market or not. And I do still think that it's very possible we are, like you said. And that's why my bias is going to shift more towards the bear market until we can cross those major trend lines, get back bullish. And so, yeah, so it's just I'm very lightly using that. And, yeah, just watching that very closely at the end of the day. But with that said, let's see. August says, how much lower do you think we can go? Yeah, I think 88 to 92K. Lowest, I would say, is 70K, which is crazy to hear that now. But I think it's very possible we could continue down to 70K up until February. And then from there, stair step higher with more bullish catalysts such as stimulus checks going out, mid-May of next year, and also potentially more interest rate cuts and quantitative easing starting, etc. So I still think there's some catalysts that we still have, but these next few months may be a little rough, and that does line up with the 2021 cycle of topping out in November as well. Shogun says, do you think the 50 EMA is now pretty much irrelevant because market makers know that everyone's looking at the 50 EMA, and it also makes sense because of all the manipulation that happened? I don't think it's irrelevant. I think that it's definitely something to watch because it did predict that, after it closed below it, we continued with bearish momentum. So at the end of the day, we just got to look at data from the past and how it's been such a significant level because it has bounced, that it's still very significant, and we need to pay attention to it because everyone else is via self-fulfilling prophecy, algorithms, etc. that still pay attention. Cal says, also Eric Trump saying Bitcoin going to 1 million is the most Q4 top signal. Doesn't get more obvious than that. People like that don't get vocal unless they're scared. Yeah, definitely, right? I mean, there's all kinds of things going on that show that's a top signal. And that's something else I was going to show you guys real quick before we end the stream here, is looking at the Bitcoin chart. And I just want to show you guys, let's see, USDTP. Okay. Let's see, is it this chart? Okay, no, it's not this one, but nonetheless, I mean, if you look, this is basically where we started the cycle in October. And, I mean, you can see how much we've went up already, right? And, I mean, literally, this was the whole bull market. And people didn't feel like this was over that time, over those 2 months, right? We went up 361%. So, I mean, that's a bull market right there. And then we topped out, and now we're continuing downward. And same thing with the trend lines here. I mean, if you look at, you could even say, this was a big trend line that everyone was watching. I know it's not picture perfect here, but we were rejecting off it multiple times, and then we acted as support, resistance, fake out above it, and then now confirm down. Right? So there's a lot of signals that people were looking at, and honestly, since there was so much flip back and forth here, I thought it was possible we could have really crossed back above it and really flew. But at the end of the day, you're looking at the trend lines, you're looking at the data, and the data right now is showing that, okay, I think we topped out and now we're entering a bear market. So you just got to be able to flip your bias, and that's why I'm watching this week if this is a fake out here and we close back above, or if not and we continue downwards. That's something as well I wanted to show you guys with that. Let's see. Donnie says, new to crypto, but love your content. Just looking to learn. Hey, appreciate it, Donnie. Make sure you check out the technical analysis basics video I have. It is in the live channel, or the live tab of the Jim Hunter's YouTube channel, and it's a third video from the bottom. It's called Technical Analysis Basics, so you can learn TA from there. Shogun says, I'm saying only now it could be relevant, not in the past 2 to 3 months. It's definitely relevant, but data is data, just an idea. Yeah, exactly. It could be, right? It could be, and so that's what we're going to follow along the way. Rami says, can you check the Tau chart? Yeah, I'll go ahead and check that real quick. Okay, so for Tau, it's getting very near to that major support of 300. And so, Tau is not looking bad, right? Now, the only thing with Tau, this is the weekly chart, by the way. The only thing with Tau is the stock RSI is not oversold yet. The RSI is far from oversold. So, I hate to say it, but Tau could still go to 180. I wouldn't want to see it, but it could still very well go to 180. That's the next major level of support. Before that, I would say here, 240, and then 215. That would be the next level here. So, yeah, I would just be careful, guys, if you're betting on Tau. I mean, 300 is a good level, but where these indicators are, if we go to the daily, I'm sure, yeah. So the stock RSI is very oversold. You can see how long it's been oversold for, but the RSI still isn't there yet. So maybe wait for the RSI gets oversold and then you can buy. But yeah, I would just be careful with Tau. I mean, on the daily, support is more so near 290 to 300. So just keep that in mind and watch out for that. And let's see if anyone else has any other questions. Don says, can you get an update on XRP? I will go and look at XRP real quick. All right, so XRP is at 215. It's actually near pretty good support right now. Now, same thing here. Stock RSI isn't quite oversold yet. RSI isn't oversold yet. And so XRP could still have room to go down. Now, with that said, where is the next major support for XRP after 210? Well, the next one's going to be around $2. $2 is going to be that psychological level. And then lower than that, you're looking at 178. So those would be levels for XRP. Stock RSI is oversold, but the RSI still isn't oversold. So this is where, guys, this RSI is going to take us down. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, for most tokens, the RSI is going to take us down because it's not even close to oversold on most tokens on the weekly. Even on the daily. You look at the daily and it's still not there. And so that's why I would just say be cautious. And yes, we're at support, but it's going to be a dead cat bounce if anything, if we have it. So just be very, it depends. For your win percentage, it just depends how many, if you're winning big and losing small. So you could even be winning 3 out of 10 trades, but if your wins are bigger than your losses, it's fine. But I would say historically, 60% win rate is fairly good. And then, like I said, for the gains, if you get gained about 50% of your portfolio compounded every month, that'd be very, very good. So let's focus on that. But with that said, guys, looks like no one else has any questions. So biggest thing is just watching your risk, managing your risk appropriately, not rushing into trades, waiting for them to come to you. There's still a lot of uncertainty in the market with the interest rate cut in December, with the Fed now potentially taxing foreign crypto accounts, and then also with other things with, QT is ending, but QE is not going to start right away. So that's still going to be some uncertainty with that, as well as if China and the U.S. are going to come to a trade deal before Thanksgiving. Could be its own catalyst if that happens. But I'll be watching that accordingly, and also keep an eye on Polymarket for the percentage chance of an interest rate cut happening as well. And besides that, guys, stay tuned. Tomorrow I'm going to have another live stream for how to properly, I believe it's how to properly manage risk. Let me just make sure. It's going to be how to preserve capital in crypto. That's going to be the next one. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. And if you guys haven't liked the stream, please like it. Mean a lot. 47 viewers, only 18 likes. So if we can get some more likes on here, guys, it'd be awesome. And if you're not following me on X at the CryptoData, definitely do that. I try to give you guys the best content possible. I'll go ahead and bring up my X account right now if you haven't seen it. Let me go ahead and go to my profile here. So yeah, at the CryptoData, I try to post as much good content as I can for you guys, post updates, everything. Like I said, I was just at Lisbon. Great place. A lot of great people. May Musk was there. Elon's mom. Great person. So a lot of good stuff, guys. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys have a great day, great weekend, great night, wherever you're at. And I'll talk to you guys soon. See you guys.